Okay, good. Hey guys, it's Camfrey15 and I'm back with another video. And this is another video pertaining to the Chicago Bears. Well, the last one referring to 2019, but the start of the 2020 offseason. As you guys can see, I have a guest, another guest on the channel, and this is my Uncle Daryl. So, say
Hey,
hello.
how's it going, bud?
Good.
How's it going, everyone?
Anyways, we're here to talk about the disappointing Chicago Bears season, which I said enough in 17 weeks of watching this team back to back. Went to the point where I thought it was usually just a waste of my 3 hours just sitting there watching them do the same stuff over and over, but it's going to be the same story for them. So, anyways, in this video, we're going to talk about really the offseason. We're going to talk a little bit about the recent changes that have been going on for the Bears, like, Eddie Jackson getting his 4-year contract extension, Kyle Long retiring, us signing the new tight ends coach and new O-line coach, even though I touched a little bit about that in my last video. But other than that, we're going to really start off with the 2019 and then 2019 thoughts, and then really focus on some changes really pertaining to what they can do for the 2020 season and where they can really see on what free agents they sign, which mostly only comes from their linebacking core, which so far is the one question mark on who do we retain. But anyways, the 2019 Chicago Bears season, like I just said to start off the video, it was a really disappointment because I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Bears promised us that they would be much better than the 2018 counterparts, yet they failed to live up to expectations since week one. Ever since week one, really, it's been an up and down roller coaster with the exception of really the same old stuff. And I'm not going to say words, but pertaining to the offensive side, it was the same old stuff. And while throughout the season, it was a lackluster effort. Um, 2019, I can sum up to be a season of missed opportunities each and every game. Um, a lot of people say it's just missed opportunities, as well as certain players not stepping up doing their job and a certain coach not really coaching to the strengths of his players. But we're going to start off talking about the offense because that's kind of the huge issue right now. And if you guys have checked out my videos, you know that I'm not a huge Trubisky fan as of right of this moment because I've already given up on the kid. I see no way how he somehow progresses and gets stronger. I wasn't very happy with the press conference Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy did to close up the season, even though technically he right now is on our roster and he's locked with us right now. Now, they don't know if they're going to pick up the 5th-year option, which they probably will unless they do a stupid extension for him, which gives me Jay Cutler vibes again. But I think it's going to be a big year for Trubisky because like Matt Nagy says, apparently he needs to be a master at reading coverages. I don't know why he hasn't. He should have been learned that, but that's the risk you take when you take a quarterback that's only had 13 starts in college. But again, he's had 40-plus starts in the NFL. And really, it's the same old stuff. Every now and then, we see Trubisky make these good moments here and there. He looks like he's a second overall pick. Then we get to the parts where we're like, okay, what is he doing? And mostly that comes against the good teams. The bad teams like the Lions and the Redskins we played this season. He looked pretty good, especially against the Detroit Lions, which, again, rank those defenses did not do well in the past for them. Against good defensive coordinators like the Saints, where he literally got exposed there. And then a few other games like the Denver Broncos, where he didn't do anything. Well, mostly that's because Vic was their DC. And then the Green Bay Packers with Mac Pettit, even though I don't like them, they had a wonderful scheme. Mostly what I saw from watching games is most teams just went back in zone coverage and played Trubisky. And again, the same thing. They just trying to turn Trubisky into a pocket passer, even though that's something to do on the coach. Morally, that's kind of on Trubisky for not improving, not going really through his reads, I thought he didn't do that well enough, and then you know just failing to be very inaccurate at sometimes. Like there were easy gimme touchdowns, and don't don't get me started on the inconsistent overthrows and stuff like that. So going to this season, obviously the Bears need to bring in competition so they can obviously make Trubisky step up his game. I think one of the things is they need to get a veteran quarterback and even draft a quarterback as a possible backup plan, unless they're going to just some part of the season they're just gonna be like, well, let's just throw it in tank for Trevor Lawrence. Um, my thoughts on Trubisky is he can improve, but I'm holding him to a high standard, and he at least, well, I have to pull up his stats, but I know he had at least 17 touchdowns to about 4 to 5 interceptions or something like that. I think 10. I don't know, but really, he was an average of the pack quarterback, if not below average this year. I even said his rookie season was better than this season. Um, but he was totally different quarterback last year because he ran the ball more. Um, Now we're going to talk about Nagy later, but obviously I don't know why they should play to his strengths. But he should have been on the run. Now maybe that had to do with his bum injured shoulder that he suffered in week 4. But I would say going to next year, the Bears should take a look at what the Ravens are currently doing right now, even though it's not probably going to be sustainable for years. And in those moments, Trubisky will have to step in and be a passer. The thing is, if it works for his style of play, run it. I guess I'm going to throw it to you for your thoughts.
Um, you can't. You really don't like Trubisky. I
Yeah.
get that. I understand that. He's a young quarterback, and what Trubisky needed more so than anything was a really good coach who
Yeah.
can understand his strengths and his weaknesses and call the game accordingly based on the team that he is actually putting out on the field.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, we can just really start with the run. They really had their problems. They really could never really replace Jordan Howard. Once Jordan Howard was not on the team, they never got a suitable running back that can grind out yards first and second down. Granted, Montgomery was a good pickup, and Tariq Cohen, he's pretty much like, he's a stopgap guy.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you need something, innovative, you put Tariq Cohen in. Tariq Cohen is not that guy you can run off tackle. Tariq Cohen is not that guy you can run up the middle. Tariq Cohen is basically a third down back from where I sit. Um,
Mhm.
David Montgomery, great back, but they needed another really big, large back to offset what Montgomery brings, which is what Pace did not do. So for me, the biggest problem was that running back core. They never really solidified that running back core. They brought in Mike Davis. They released him. I think it was somewhere around week 9, week 10, I believe. And they never really got another back to actually come in and
Mhm.
try to do some of the things they wanted Mike Davis to do.
Yeah.
Um, and second thing is the Bears. The majority of the time when they run the ball, they win. I mean,
Yep.
they ran the ball 20 plus times in 12 games, and they were 8-4 in those games.
Yep.
Anytime they ran the ball less than 20, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they lost. That Saints game you
Yeah.
brought up, they ran the ball 7 times.
Yep.
7 times with a quarterback you said is inefficient. If the quarterback is inefficient, why in the blue blazes are you giving him the ball 54 times in drop back situation? And on top of that, they had a backup quarterback, the Saints.
Yep.
So my thing is that everything that the Bears did offensively, everything they did well, and everything that they failed at falls on the shoulder of Mike Nagy, which is the reason why I'm saying Mike Nagy is the problem more so than Trubisky. We can
Okay.
win with Trubisky. Mike Nagy
Yeah.
has to utilize him properly. Um,
Mhm.
get him out in space. If you can get Lamar Jackson out in space, and I know he has
Yeah.
freakish athletic talent. But the comparison I'm going to use is Allen in Buffalo. They're similar type players. The Bears and Buffalo are similar type teams, but
Yeah.
Buffalo made playoffs and we didn't. All because McDermott obviously knows his personnel, and he's scheming to the exact specification of his personnel. Mike Nagy, for some strange reason, I guess, I don't know what his play calling was about. He showed, and then on top of it, what got me the most about Mike Nagy
Mhm.
was he talked about accountability, but he never talked about accountability as it relates to himself. The
Yeah.
buck stops with the head coach. The buck
Mhm.
stops with the head coach, and he did not. I don't recall any press conference where he said, well, it falls upon me. Um, every time I heard a press conference, it was, well, guys have to win their one-on-one matches. Um, where the defense didn't do that. The secondary failed to do that. Wide receivers failed to read coverages. Trubisky failed to read coverages. And I'm hearing all of this, but the one thing I'm not hearing is, you know what? My play calling just literally sucked, and the
Mhm.
team suffered. The team
Yeah.
suffered. His play calling not only hurt Trubisky, it hurt the offensive line, it
Mhm.
hurt the offense, it hurt the special teams, and more importantly, it hurt the defense. The one thing that we needed that defense to be was on the sidelines while that offense is running their plays. I don't ever now, and I have to look at the math, but I don't ever recall the Bears having. I think I think the crazy stat is they never had more than five, 8+ minute drives in a game.
Wow.
More than five. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just, and to me, that again, it all falls upon Nagy. Nagy
Mhm.
has got to make sure that he puts these guys in the best position to win. And unfortunately, I do not believe he did that. Case in point, they fired basically everybody off the offensive coaching staff but him.
Yep.
So he
Yeah.
scapegoated the entire offensive coaching staff, but he can only do it for so long. So
Mhm.
I believe they're gonna give him one more shot with Trubisky. I believe he can win with Trubisky. He just has to make sure that he gets a roster, whereas this kid can excel. This kid is not Tom Brady. He is
Yeah.
not Peyton Manning. He is not, hell, at this point, he's not even Ryan Tannehill.
Yep.
But this guy can win if you put him in the right situations for him to excel. And excel, I think he will if they do it.
Also, to add to the Trubisky thing, I think also he needs to play on a bit more consistent basis. But
True.
also when you look at Matt Nagy, the play calling from Matt Nagy last year, as opposed to this year, is just highly different. Again, he was the main one in the offseason before the season even started saying, well, we're going to have 202 offenses. We're like, okay,
Mhm.
202 offense. So obviously going to be like next, maybe what the Chiefs are doing right now with Patrick Mahomes. You fail to see it. I personally think really as far as the coaching hires, the tight end coaching, okay, maybe that needed to be the coach for the tight ends might needed to be fired because we were getting no production. Again, you can go to with scheming and stuff like that, but when you have guys like Trey Burton who fails to stay healthy, as well as Adam Shaheen, which I personally think he needs to be cut, but apparently he's going to be staying on the team next year.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, you know, that fails happen. The offensive line is another issue in itself. So I guess I can see why they fired their Harry Highstand and hired Juan Castillo because Juan Castillo he did have one of the best offensive lines in the last couple of years this past decade. Another thing I wish he would put Trubisky more on the run, like that Bills playoff game, even though they lost. I think one of the first runs or the first plays the Bills ran was just a quarterback draw
Mhm.
to the right, and Josh Allen literally ran almost to
And
the fourth.
that was a nice players too, because not only did they pull the tackle, they pulled the guard and the center. So then that
Yep.
way Allen had enough space to get to that second level. And once he got to that second level, I think he ran another 40 yards.
Yep.
So but another thing that really gets me about Nagy is, he's an Andy Reid guy.
Hmm.
And Andy Reid, the way he's always run his system is similar to the way the Bears makeup was coming into this year. You have a lot of real. I mean, I do like our wide receiving core when they're healthy. When they're healthy, we have a really
Yep.
decent wide receiving core. And um, Andy Reid never had that big bruising back because he never wanted. He always had those types like Brian Westbrook, a guy who you really couldn't give the ball to 25, 30 times in a game. Which is probably one of the reasons why he wasn't really successful when he needed to be in Philadelphia, because he just didn't have the roster for playoff football. Granted, he did go to a Super Bowl. He went to 4 straight NFC championships. But when the rubber met the road, he needed to be able to grind yards out. And guys like Westbrook, David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, they just could not do it. They couldn't grind out yards the way they needed to. So hopefully coming into next year, the new coaches, and Ryan Pace, we go ahead and try to do something. And I think we should start with our lines. Start with our O-line. We start with that O-line and get that O-line together. I honestly feel Trubisky can be successful, but Nagy's got to stop treating him like he's Tom Brady. I mean, let Trubisky who Trubisky is. Let him be who he is. And he is not that kind of guy you need to drop back 40, 50 times a game. That's not who he is. He's a guy, he's a solid running game. And he's also a guy who needs to be able to be put in positions where he can make open throws to really good receivers. If the Bears do what, and I think Herm Edwards said this years ago, there are 3 ways to win in football: run the ball, stop the run, quarterback don't make any mistakes. You do those 3 things, more chance than not you'll be successful. And honestly, the Bears just didn't do that this year, and it was because of Mike Nagy's play calling, in my opinion.
Yeah. I just gotta really also say they could bring in one running back or maybe draft another running back. I don't think drafting another running back would be the ideal thing. They would have to somehow get one in free agency, depending if they want to be cheap. Because right now they do not have a lot of flex space in the cap space right now. I know Kyle Fuller, he restructured his contract to put a little bit more in. Then that made Eddie Jackson be able to sign his contract extension. I do believe they still need to sign Allen Robinson to another contract extension.
Really? Okay.
So like that, because you want to make sure he's there long term, because he's already proven like he's a really good receiver in this league. The only thing is you can say the quarterback play he's had has been average to sometimes below average at best.
Yeah.
But,
hey, speaking of this, that Saints game, and I'm sorry to mean to cut you off, that Saints game we were talking about, the Bears ran the ball 5 times in the first half. They ran the ball 2 times in the second half. Those 2 times in the second half were not the running backs. They were the Cordell Patterson and Anthony Miller. Case in point, every time I saw Cordell Patterson in the backfield, for some strange reason, they gave it to him. Like he was supposed to do this grand wizardry to go ahead and get a touchdown off tackle. Like, again, it just, they need what I feel they need is they got 2 small running backs, and David Montgomery isn't a big guy. He's an average size running back. What, he's like 205, 210?
Yeah, at least I think 6'2" or something like that. At least.
Yeah, they need a big running back. Somebody like, a really big 230, 240-pound running back that can just move the line of scrimmage. Turn one of them tight ends into a fullback.
I think that's what they did with Holtz for a while when they always ran the I formation. But then again, and before we stop talking about the running game, my opinion, I thought David Montgomery was good when there was open holes. He doesn't have the breakaway speed. Like there was one run where he was clearly could have been gone, but he didn't have the breakaway speed to finish it off. But I do like the fact that he has the elusiveness that Jordan Howard didn't have. And when he does need to get down and dirty, he will bulldoze some people every now and then. And
early, I don't think Nagy trusted him because he was a rookie. It just seemed like Mike Davis early on got more. I don't want to say shine, got more time, got more snaps than Montgomery. And then when Montgomery just, I think, propelled past Davis was when they released him. So hopefully next year that we can actually give the ball more to David Montgomery, because he is a really good back. And can use him exclusively on first and second down. It's those third and fourth downs in which we decide to get those short yardage downs, those short yardage attempts, is when I think we could use a really big back that can grind out yards and wear defenses down too. Because basically, playoff football is just that,
Yeah.
defense is down, and that's what teams did to us. Just run on us because the offense is three and out, three and out. And then next thing you know, in the fourth quarter, we're on gas and fumes.
One thing I'll say before we get to talking the offensive line and some of that issue, the one thing I will say is, so far this team does not have an identity because Nagy fails to find that identity. I think the one thing is he needs to realize is, okay, run the type of offense you like to run, but go back to what worked for this team for the entire history. That's old school. Hand the ball off to the running back, I formation, because every time we ran the I formation, it worked despite who was in the backfield, whether it was Cordell Patterson, Cohen, and Montgomery. That worked, and then he would go back into a run pass option shotgun, and it'd be a pass, and then that goes incomplete, and then again and this is my last thing. I said that I think in my Vikings recap. I swear, I hope next year I do not see the bubble screen because that never works. If he runs that bubble screen,
I got to admit, I'm gonna lose it too.
I'm going to throw my TV and just scream. But I think we've done talk enough about the really skill positions, wide receiver wise, and tight end wise. I thought Anthony Miller, he took a step despite him always looking like he's throwing up gang signs. I think he needs to cut that down a bit. Allen Robinson,
the reason why he wasn't playing a lot early on too. I mean, he didn't really get it going until what was it, around
sometime after, I think, week 11. It was that it happened. He started having the breakout.
Correct.
The Thanksgiving Day game against Detroit.
That's true. Yep. And that was I think week 12. It's either week 11, week 12. You're right. And him and Robinson was basically uncoverable. You couldn't. So I mean, I like our wide receiving core. I mean, I really like them. They're versatile. We got a number one guy. We got a bunch of guys that can actually do things over the top of a defense. We got a bunch of guys that can actually beat coverages. We got a bunch of guys that can take a 3-yard out and turn it into a 20+ yard run. I mean, I think the main thing, those tight ends, however, I don't know who's our new coach, tight end.
I'm gonna have to look that up real quick.
Yeah, whoever he is. Hopefully he can light something. He light a fire underneath the butt of Adam Shaheen.
I do know for the tight ends coach, because I watched another YouTuber, but the Bears' new tight end coach is Clancy Barone. He has had a good history with having tight ends, and his most recent stint was the Minnesota Vikings with Kyle Rudolph. So obviously, hopefully that goes well. He's been with a few other teams that had really good tight ends. I know one of the teams he was with, the Chargers, at the time. That was, I believe it was, who was that tight end? I think it was Antonio Gates.
It was Gates. Yeah, it was Gates.
So I saw the video. He has a very good pedigree, so hopefully he can turn the tight end position around. Depending how the tight ends play, Taylor Gabriel, I feel like the Bears are just gonna maybe just let him walk because I think so. Because really, when he was out with the rest of the season-long concussion he had, Anthony Miller basically filled in his position, and he played well from the slot position.
Gotcha.
And plus, I think it also gives guys more like a Javon Wims and Riley Ridley, who we just drafted, more of a chance to see them grow because I was actually high on them drafting Riley Ridley, and when they drafted him, I was like, oh, okay.
Me too.
And that last Vikings game, he did pretty well. So I'm looking to see where they grow. Yeah. I think mostly they're going to just let him walk or cut him, Gabriel, because I think so they can save more cap space for more free agent signees. Tight ends wise, I know I did not make a video before the tragic wild card game, but ever really since then, Trey Burton has been gone for the team. Um,
Yeah, he's been hurt a lot. A
I
lot.
think
And I mean, he's been hurt a lot. I mean, last year he was hurt. This year he was hurt. If I'm right, his last year in Philadelphia, the last few games of that season, he was hurt as well too. So, I mean, the only thing I can do is they're going to keep him.
yeah, they
Get
have to
get
because of the
get
cut.
get the guy to eat his Wheaties or something. You know,
Yeah, 'cause I know I
but
think if they cut him, they take a pretty big cap hit with that.
well, right now, I checked. I believe they're about 17 million under. I think. So I don't know if they're trying to free up any cap space in order to, like, let's just say, possibly bring in,
Mm-hmm.
free agent. And I know we've already talked about the offensive line.
Yeah.
Probably try to bring in some free agent offensive line help, especially
Mhm.
since Long retired. Um, I mean, they could go and draft O line. I mean, they did receive 43 and 50 in the second round.
Yeah.
If Tua Tagovailoa, Roll Tide, doesn't fall down to 43, then
Hmm.
I'm thinking they'll probably go O line with at least one of those first two picks in the second round.
Yeah. Trey Burton, I think next year, along with a lot of people for next year, it's going to be a big year for him. Hopefully, he gets back to being healthy and he can play because
Yep.
the first couple of games back in 2018, he was very good. And obviously, it goes to show that in this offense, you need a tight end. Adam
Yeah.
Shaheen, on the other hand, personally, if unless he starts turning around his play himself, I don't want to see him on the field. I liked what they did where they just put him on the IR, even though he was just a healthy scratch.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I hate to be cruel, but I think he was just a walking space of mediocrity. He was just
Yeah.
bad. He was just bad.
That's
And I'm not an athlete. I don't, I mean, I once was one, so it's, but I can tell you just by looking at him play, I just really didn't see anything that tells me NFL player, you know. Um, so
yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah.
no,
It's one of the
not,
more
yeah,
questionable draft picks Pace has made. You can
yeah.
count Trubisky. Let's be real. Who drafts a Division three tight end?
And
Nobody does that.
and going back to Trubisky, I gotta admit, I don't, it was the Cleveland Browns
Yeah.
who first reported that they were going to draft Trubisky with the
Hmm.
number one pick that year. So all of these scouts went clamoring, running left, right, here, there, hither and yard. Who is this Mitch Trubisky? Who is this Mitch Trubisky?
Hmm.
And I really think it changed the narrative from who the Browns truly wanted to draft, which
Yep.
was Myles Garrett.
Hmm.
So I mean, you had all of these people trying to trade up and get this guy, and maybe somebody wanted, maybe they were trying to force a trade, to have someone trade that number one pick, because who knows, they could have wanted, Deshaun Watson,
Yeah.
or could have wanted, Patrick Mahomes, these guys who slid under these high teams' radar in order for them to go later. Personally, I think Deshaun Watson was the best player in the draft. He didn't go number one. It is what it is. And we have Trubisky, and I still think we can win with him. Still
Yeah.
think we can win.
This is the last thing before we switch over to the defense. Is talking about the troubling on the offensive line. But the first
Golly.
thing I would say is Kyle Long, which was one of the news that was reported this week and a little bit into last week too. He finally retired. I remember I was just chillaxing doing something, and I saw that he officially retired. And I felt some sort of way. At first, I was like, "Oh, well, I guess that's not bad." But at the same time, I did feel a little bad for him because he was one of the best Bears to ever put on a Bears jersey. I wouldn't say all time where you would retire his jersey, but he was a really good player for us. One of the
Yeah.
best draft picks we've had in the past decade because you can go back to many draft picks that have failed. But one, I just got to say, Kyle Long, I know what it's like to have just injury problems, and he's obviously focusing about his future life, and he wants to spend it that way, injury free. So hopefully he gets back to being 100%. Obviously, he said he was going to be a Bear for life, and he ended his career as a Bear for life. But anyways, going to the offensive line, which for some reason was really, really bad from the get-go. I'm just going to point out one person, Charles Leno Jr. Um, so
I saying to myself, I was like, "Oh, don't say Leno Jr. Don't say Leno Jr. Please don't say Leno Jr." And lo and behold, bam!
If I was Charles Leno Jr., I would hand Pace back my contract and try to resign.
You say he's stealing.
Because before the season started, he got, I think, 4-year extension or something like that,
He did.
along with guaranteed money.
He did.
And ever since then, at least every week, he either had a very bad penalty or just a bad, very missed or stupid whiff on a block.
Yep.
The last week of the season, week 17, was when I just then had enough, because at the time, Minnesota was only playing their second stringers. There was one play where just a second string defensive lineman just does some simple move on Charles Leno, and Charles Leno completely whiffs on his block, and I think Trubisky gets sacked because of it. And I think that's also when Trubisky fumbled the ball in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And when they replayed it, Charles Leno had a terrible block. Obviously, they can't cut Charles Leno. The only other thing they could do is somehow get somebody else in to replace him. I think that's what they did with one player on the offense, where they just kept letting him play because – oh, no, that was on the defense. That was when Prince was just getting burnt, and they just put Kevin Tolliver in. And regardless, even though the corners didn't do the best, we barely got beat over the top over it. So unless he keeps up that play, I'd say bench him and make him, just do something. Otherwise, he's just there, not blocking, just collecting checks like he's not doing anything, because his blocking from 2018 to this year shows, because he just looks like a guy that, I got my money. Now I'm just going to chillax. His other counterpart tackle, Bobby Massey, he got hurt. He wasn't the best either, but when he basically was hurt for the rest of the season, I believe it was John Lucas III came in, heard nothing from him for the rest of the season when he came in. So it goes to show that if your backups are doing a better job than you, obviously you need to step up your game, or the Bears need to do more of a better job at evaluating talent. And I guess one of the biggest question marks was when they did, at first, when the season started, they did the James Daniel to center, and the Cody Whitehair moving back to his original position, which I think it was left guard. And then they switched him back because the offensive line issues. Now, there were still offensive line issues after that switch, but it seemed, even though Cody Whitehair isn't the best of snappers, it seemed like I think the Bears should just keep him as center as it is, because, if it worked before, don't, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Obviously James Daniels was a young center, and at the time when Kyle Long went down, they had Rashawn Coward, who was a D lineman converted to O-line. They basically had two rookie type of players on the same line of the ball, one a center and one at the right guard.
Mm-hmm.
I think Juan Castillo has to go in and try to fix this issue. Hopefully he can, as well as Nagy. We still haven't picked up an OC, which I think Mark Helfrich, even though they say he contributed to the run game, I think that was just a scapegoat move. I think the OC they should pick up is Pat Shurmur, since he did a good job the last time he was an OC, which was back in Minnesota. And I think Nagy, to end off the offensive stuff, I think he needs to just get all the offensive coaches in one room and basically collaborate and say, okay, we all need to work together to make one goal and one, whole offense. Now, I think he needs to do that more with the offensive coordinator, whoever that is, as well as a mixture with the offensive line coach, but I think they need to be one collective unit working together. I think we stressed enough. We talked literally about 30 minutes about the offense alone. So we're going to get into the defense, because the defense, and I'm just going to we're gonna talk about just all over the place. I would say right now the biggest question mark in terms of the defense is our linebacking core because right now, not only we're gonna apparently right now free agents for our linebacking core opposite of Roquan Smith, who I thought had a great season this year. Should have been to the Pro Bowl, but hey, there's a lot of Bears. Personally, if you ask me, the only Bears that should have made the Pro Bowl are Cordell Patterson, Allen, and really Allen Robinson. But it is what it is. But our linebacking core, Danny Trevathan's going to be a free agent this offseason. Nick
Didn't he hurt his
Kwiatkowski.
elbow?
Hmm?
Didn't Trevathan hurt his elbow?
Yeah, that really bad knee or
So
arm injury.
I don't even know if he's coming back.
They could make him come back, but I think it depends what type of money he wants. Nick Kwiatkowski, who came in for Danny Trevathan for the rest of the season, he played really good and basically blew my mind with how great he stepped his game up.
And see,
It
that's
kept,
just it. I think that's the stopgap to keep, to go ahead and give Trevathan his walking papers. Keep Kwiatkowski, and then have the linebacking core of, well, I mean, Mack is not really, although he's listed as a linebacker, he's not really a linebacker from what I see. They pretty much have him at DE.
yeah,
My problem with the defense it was never with the front seven.
yeah,
My problem with the defense was the
it's
secondary.
the back end.
And I mean, Kyle Fuller, to me,
Mhm.
it looks like he takes plays off. And I mean, I've seen many times where Kyle Fuller, Prince of Nakamura will come up to the line and bump and run coverage. So I'm looking at Kyle Fuller. I'm thinking he's going to do the same, going bump and run coverage. He gets right up on the wide receiver, and then shortly, when the quarterback calls his cadences and his calls, he drops 10 to 12 yards back off that wide receiver. And all that wide receiver virtually does is just a 5-yard curl and get the football.
Yeah.
And he does come up, he does it, and he only comes up when, for the most part, you're in the red zone and you have no space. So he's got to come up, and then that's when wide receivers beat him over the top. I mean, I just don't see how he's a cover corner.
Yeah.
I think that Pro Bowl he got a couple years ago was basically because that front seven was balling out, was balled lights out.
And he actually made the Pro Bowl this year again. This year,
he did.
Yep.
I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, they probably didn't have anybody else to give it to, But I'm not a Kyle Fuller fan. The one thing that bothers me about that defense is that it's Kyle Fuller. Kyle Fuller, for the most part, he's always looking for over the top help, and he's 12 yards back on a receiver. I mean, how can you yell at someone for over the top coverage and you're 12 yards back on a receiver? If you're 12 yards back on a receiver, that receiver should get nowhere behind you, and it happens constantly. So, I'm not crazy about Kyle Fuller. I think, we probably should, probably look to get another cornerback. Buster Screen, I think, was actually pretty good in the slot. I wouldn't have a problem seeing Buster. You don't like Screen?
I thought near the tail end of the season he played terrible. Now I thought he did decent in his stint with the Bears, a lot better, as much as they did like Bryce Callahan. Sadly, he got hurt too much, and you can go look at the Broncos, for example. The dude, I don't even think even played a game with him because he was hurt the entire thing.
Correct.
The entire season. I think the game where I just was kind of frustrated with Screen was the week, I believe, 15 matchup against the Packers when it was just a do or die game. And that's when, honestly, he had his worst game of the season. When I remember, the only thing I remember from that is when he let Devontae Adams just go right past him and did nothing. He caught that touchdown. And I think he was expecting safety help on that, though.
Oh yeah. But at the same time, though, I think what happened was, I mean, again, it was still that same. He was off I mean, he didn't have an opportunity to put his hands on the Devontae Adams. It
Yeah.
didn't look like, I think he was showing bump and run coverage,
Mhm.
and then he just backed off. And I just think that between the defense the way it was with Fangio
Mhm.
and the defense the way it is with Pagano, I think there was like a difference of opinion as far as
Mhm.
how the defense should be ran. So I don't know if Nagy felt that Pagano could handle the defense with the way he's going to be play calling. I
Mhm.
guess he might have figured that the defense was going to be lights out like they were last year,
Mhm.
but they were lights out because the Bears ran the ball more, keeping offenses and keeping their defense on the sidelines rested.
Mhm.
So, and again, just I always say this as well too. NFL defenses always catch up. I don't care what scheme you run, NFL defenses always catch up, and you have to have a head coach to be able to adjust, and also defensive coordinators too.
Mhm.
You also have to have a coaching staff that's going to be able to adjust to how teams are going to play you. And teams came in this year expecting to stop the run to make Trubisky throw. But
Mhm.
what they got instead was Mike Nagy calling five wide the first three plays of a game when you have a quarterback that likes to run.
Mhm.
I mean, so I think the defense, once we get healthy,
Mhm.
um, we got to get Hicks back.
Yeah.
We got to, obviously we got to get Roquan back, and we
Mhm.
got to have some depth in that front seven.
Oh yeah,
Luckily for us, yeah,
especially I think at the at the D line, because one of the
yeah,
biggest things about the differences from last year to this year is last year's team got a bunch of pressure last year. This team, the defensive line got pressure up till week 5 against the Raiders when they literally just got their butts handed to them. And
it's
ever since
funny
then,
you mentioned that game because I live here in Germany and I was gonna go. I was gonna go to that Raiders game. I was gonna go to that Raiders game in London. But what happened was that when we started looking for plane tickets, the plane tickets were ridiculously high, so we decided to sit back.
yeah.
And once I saw that game and how Josh Jacobs was running all over us, and that defensive line, I mean, they couldn't get through wet toilet paper.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I don't know, I think that was the turning point to our season where it really spiraled downhill. And we
Mhm.
just could we
I, I totally agree because I remember just preparing for that week. I was like, okay, the
Yep.
Bears are thinking at the time where they were like 3-1 or something. No, they were, yeah, I think
No,
3-1 at
you're
the
right.
time.
3-1. Three and
I was
one.
like,
You're
okay,
right.
heading to a
Game
bye,
five.
they need to pick up this win so they can be 4-1. They could get themselves back into the race for NFC North. And when they
Yep.
lost that game, that was the start of everything. Future games later, which really was the start of that 4-game losing streak for that
Yep.
span of time. I think the defensive line, which kind of let the clearly the defensive backs literally get exposed because again the difference is last year we got that constant pressure on the quarterbacks
Yep.
which made the DBs not be able to and take chances, go for balls, and not really bite as much and or not have as much time to get beat in coverage. I think going to next year they need to obviously get more pressure. Cleo Mack, even though he is great and he is getting double team, still got to get some more pressure somehow, or the other
Yeah,
guys
they
have to get
do.
some more pressure to
I
help him
think
out.
that one thing I did like, and I saw it in the Minnesota game versus New Orleans, the playoff game, how Minnesota shuffled the defensive line all over the place. I mean, they had their two best pass rushers, specifically Hunter, rushing as a defensive tackle, and they're getting in the backfield. And I think we could potentially see that moving forward with Mac
Mm-hmm.
because when this year they only had Mac at either the right or left defensive end. I never saw a game in which they actually lined him up over the center.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So, but I think in Fangio's defense, they did. And it could have just been one of them things whereas, Pagano wanted to, wipe out the ghost of Christmas Fangio, so to speak, and try to put his stamp on this defense. That's fine. But at the same time, though, guys got to get to the quarterback. And when we lost Hicks, Floyd, I think the best game I ever saw Floyd play was that very first game against Green Bay. I mean, I
Yeah.
think the first play of the game, Leonard Floyd sacked Aaron Rodgers. And I think after that, I think he just, for whatever reason, either he tailed off, Pagano just didn't use him as a DN. And even when he did use him as a DN, I just don't think Floyd was. It didn't seem like he played hungry
Yeah.
as a defensive man. It just
Because
seemed like he was just going through the motions.
I know last season he was on his 5th-year option, so he's in a contract year trying to get that contract.
Correct.
They could bring Leonard Floyd back if they're willing to tell him that, look, you got to be cheap because we have low cap space right now. Otherwise, I'd just say let him walk and find somebody else, whether in free agency, maybe the draft, that can be opposite of Khalil Mack and get some pressure on there. As terms of the defensive line,
no matter who they get, though, Cameron, whoever they get, they gotta get somebody. They gotta get some type of pressure opposite Mack. Even put Mack over the center, they gotta get one of those ends to do their job and get to the quarterbacks. But before that, they got to stop the run, and that's where Akeem Hicks came in. Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman, those guys have to stop the run. And when Hakeem Hicks got hurt, he tried Value to come back. I think it was against Dallas. And,
no, that was Packer week. That was the Green Bay Packer week.
Came back against the Packers. Okay, well then he tried and it just didn't work. He wasn't the same. He wasn't the same.
Yeah.
So we got to make sure. Hopefully, they make sure that Akeem is healthy, and if he is not, we got to make sure we got a lot of depth on that at that defensive tackle position. So, because I mean, those guys in the trenches, and you were talking about Kyle Long earlier as well too. They do a lot of dirty work, and when one person falls, you got to have someone to come up and at least try to do the same type things as the person that fell. And they didn't have a lot of depth on that defensive tackle area.
The last time they really got a lot of pressure was that Week 4 matchup against the Minnesota Vikings, when I was like, okay, the depth seems good. The players are coming.
Oh yeah, we stopped Dalvin Cook. I think Dalvin Cook couldn't breathe that game. He really couldn't. They could do absolutely nothing that game. I mean, they came in with the game plan. Hey, we stopped 33. We stopped the Vikings. And I mean, that defense was lit that day. I think there was just 2 times throughout the entire season in which I can honestly say the Chicago Bears defense was truly lit. That very first game against Green Bay and that game against Minnesota, in which I think we won 16-6.
So really the defensive line, I thought played almost C-D+ level of type of play. Hopefully they can get healthy and add some more people. If they're going to let Leonard Floyd walk, hopefully they find somebody opposite of Khalil Mack to get some pressure. But at the end of the day, the defensive line going to next year for 2020 has to get pressure, whether, and even when Chuck Pagano sent blitzes with the linebackers, sometimes those blitzes just didn't hit home and, leading into the linebacking position. I thought Roquan Smith, he did a really good job coming back from that secret thing that was, I guess, plaguing him from week 4 on to like week 5. And then after he came back, he just played lights out. Another one of the better pace draft pick signings. I think he's going to be another great future Chicago Bears linebacker. Even though he is on a little bit of a smaller side, he's obviously grown this year, and I can't wait to see what he does next year. Now, the opposite linebacker, whoever it may be, I think if they want to bring Danny Trevathan, they can, because he's better in pass well, he's a better all-around back than, say, Kiwatowski, because Kiwatowski is better in the run. But I
Mhm.
still thought, even in the past, Kiwatowski did do pretty well. The Week 15 game, he almost picked off Aaron Rodgers. Um, I thought he came in and he looked like he earned himself a contract, whether that's with the Bears, which, at first, I always would watch him in preseason. I'm like, this guy's not good. Why do they have this guy? Now he looks like he is matured, he's grown, and he took advantage of an opportunity that was given to him. He stepped up his game. So if they bring back Kiwatowski, I wouldn't mind because one, I think he's 3 years younger than Danny Trevathan, and he's probably at this point in time less injury prone. Um, and he does help out the run stoppage a lot. So if they can somehow bring him back on a fairly good deal, I'll take Kiwatowski to join, and instead of just having an older, linebacker we might have for like another, if they were to bring Trevathan back and have him for another 3 years of legit good play time till he starts wearing down. Kevin
Well,
Pierre.
I was gonna say, I'm sorry to mean to cut you off, but there is another linebacker who really impressed me, um, and that's Pierre Lewis or
Yeah.
Pierre Louis. He was very impressive late in the year,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure at the money that he commands next year, it'll be much less than Trevathan. So
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that I'm really, really hoping that they get to play this kid a little bit more because he was highly impressive. He was motivated, he was hungry, and he was able to get from sideline to sideline very quickly. So with all the experience that he received, and hopefully the offseason will be really good for him. Our front seven, our linebacking core, I'm not too worried about.
Yeah.
It's the defensive tackles and our cornerbacks.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get some guys that can cover wide receivers, whether it be on the ends or the slot. I like our safeties, but they did too much. Jackson and Clinton Dix roll tide. They did a heck of a lot. They did a heck of a lot to cover for the deficiencies of our cornerbacks. So
Mm-hmm.
if we can get two corners that can actually, I'm not saying they be cover corners. All I'm saying
Yeah.
is that all they have to do is just make sure that they try to limit what the wide receivers are attempting to do when they have man on man coverage on them.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is the defensive tackles. If those guys stop the run, I think this Bear defense will be really good next year.
Yeah, before we end the linebacker, I thought Kevin Pierre Lewis, he did really good. He turned my opinion on him around after the Raiders game when he ran into the freaking the punter, when that kind of was the game, and I was like, oh, great.
It was.
I
It
remember
was.
that exact week. I was like, whoever that dude was, cut him the moment the game ends. Luckily, they kept him, but he came in, did good. I think the Bears can re-sign him and maybe Kiwatowski for a fair enough deal. If they can't,
I think
it,
both of those will command less money than what
yeah,
Trevathan will command.
and
Trevathan's going to command a decent little penny,
mhm,
and with the Bears cap situation, I can't see them signing
yeah.
him.
But I will say, to end off the linebacker, they both did play well to earn themselves a contract with another team. And then I guess defensive back wise,
Uh,
couple in my thoughts. I don't know why he needs to get so deep. I played corner in high school. My coach always told me just stay at least 7 yards, and that's the deepest you should go. He looked
exactly.
like sometimes he was so deep he went off the picture of the camera.
He went off the TV screen, didn't he? And I'm like, where is this dude at? I'm like, you gotta be. I mean, come on now. You can't honestly sit up here and tell me that the quarterback is that stupid that he's
Yeah,
not gonna throw to the guy when you 12 to 15 yards back. I mean, you can just do what? A bubble screen. Call
yeah.
an audible for a bubble screen. But anyway, that's Kyle Fuller. Why did you want to talk about the defensive? Why did you want to talk about Kyle Fuller, man?
Next up is his counterpart, which I think they just need to let him go right now,
I think they
is Prince Prince
Kyle,
Amukamara. I think they should just cut him loose because Prince Amukamara, goodness gracious, there's nothing left to be said. The first half of the season,
listen. You got to give Prince credit, though. When he came up in bump and run coverage, he came up in full bump and run coverage. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm looking at a Makamura, and he's coming in bump and run coverage. Then I look at the top, and I see Kyle Fuller looks to be in bump and run coverage. Makamura stays, but Fuller, he starts backing up, and I'm wondering what in the blue blaze is going on. Why do you have one corner in full man-to-man coverage, bump and run, and you got the other one dropping back 12 to 15 yards back? Just, but yeah, he had
As for
issues.
Prince, the first half of the season, he did, I would say, fairly well. It He really didn't start teetering off when it was that, I believe it was the second time we played the Lions. And that's when he literally just started getting exposed over and over and over again. It was the first play the Lions had with David Blah. And I will never forget this out of my memory. Birthday, I was happy. I was like, okay, we got a touchdown. Um, Next thing, third down and 10, throws like a 75-plus yard pass because basically Prince Mukamara just lets Kenny Golladay just run straight past. And I'm like, okay, this guy
Yeah,
sucks.
that was ugly. I will tell you that was ugly. You
And
know,
then,
the
yeah,
and our corners were just not good all year long.
yeah. I personally think the corners have been an issue the past couple of years, really. We haven't
Uh,
had legit corners since really Charles Tillman. I forgot the other guy who was opposed of him, but the corners, whoever replaces a Mukamara, whether it's Kevin Tolliver or they draft another corner, or even they may give Duke Shelley a chance. We'll see. As for the safeties, I thought the safeties sometimes played well. Eddie Jackson did not have a huge impact like he did last year, mostly because he played more lead down to the box because Haha's more, just the free, safety that stays in coverage. But I think what they'll do is they'll let, Haha walk, whether they use him to replace him with Dion Bush or they draft either another safety opposite of Eddie Jackson. Also, congrats to Eddie Jackson on your contract extension. Very much deserved. I was actually one of the guys I hoped they had retained. Um, Unless they go in the draft or pick up another safety in free agency, and make Eddie Jackson play back to where he used to play in 2018, he could probably have that same impact because Eddie Jackson, for the most part, he did have some plays every now and then, but he just didn't have the same impact as he did last year. But I will give him his due credit. He did admit at the last time, I think the Bears went out. I think when they were cleaning out the locker rooms, they said he admitted that we didn't play up to the fans' standards and what they wanted because for the most part, he was judging the fans for booing, even though it was rightfully justified. Um, Hopefully this defense, they slightly regressed a bit, but they were still a top 10 defense for the most part. It was just the offense that just couldn't help carry the defense. When the defense would get the stops, the offense would just get 3-and-outs. And the
mhm.
defense, I think the defense is going to be fine for another year or two because really everyone's signed to I think really on to next year after next year's season, the 2021 season. And really, that's when the defense is going to eventually start to break down because now the Bears have a window, and hopefully they can get to this window right now. And that's why I've been so picky on the Trubisky thing. Like, look, I don't want to I'm just saying, don't want to waste my time right now when we have this very good defense. But and then I guess the last thing we can end off right now is the special teams. Eddie Pinero, which they made the kicker thing so much more of a drama than it already looks like because now I think this year it's focusing about how are we going to fix the offense. Eddie Pinero, despite missing kicks every now and then, even that game winner against the Chargers, which was just the most demoralizing thing. At least he didn't double doink it. That was fine with me. But I think he was good in the role he was given. Obviously, I think he was only brought here on a 1-year contract. He's earned another year because he closed the season on a good note, mostly because he was the only guy giving us points from the get-go.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think he deserved another year, maybe at least a 2-year contract worth, I don't know, at least at a decent price he'll take. He has the leg. He hit the game-winning 50-yard kick against Denver. Um, you know, I think with him, it just determines how much of a confidence we're going to get with him based on the last kick he makes. If he makes a kick, I feel like he's got really high confidence. I think he went in a little bit of a slump after he missed that game-winning kick, and that just brought bad memories back to Cody Parkey.
Yeah.
But I thought he came in. I thought he did a good job on the kicking, much better than Cody Parkey. We had a little, I would say, an iffy type of feeling about him, but overall, as a just, I thought he was fine. Pat O'Donnell, I would say he punted much better than he did in previous years. I have nothing else to say about him. Cordell Patterson as our special teams dude, I thought he was good. Especially the few times he ran it back for a touchdown. The only time I remember was that Vikings game. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, he deserved to win Pro Bowl for special teams player. There was a reason why we brought him in from the New England Patriots, and hopefully the same thing can be replicated with the special teams. Now, we did fire like an assistant special teams coach. I don't know why they did that because other special teams, for the most part, were actually pretty fine this year. They weren't much of an issue, but I said in my last video pertaining to that, I think that's just another scapegoat move to try to hide behind something, but it is
Yeah.
what it is. If they were going to fire special teams, I thought it'd be the main dude, Chris Tabor, because I don't think he's that good.
Yeah.
Um, but, as a whole, I thought it was fine. It's just me. I don't really like Tariq Cohen receiving punts. I really feel like they should do Cordell Patterson receiving punts because every time with Cohen returning punts, he either returns it at the last second somewhere inside the 10-yard line, and then and this is the thing with Cohen anyway, he just runs sideline to sideline regardless. As much as he's a small back and doesn't like to get hit, he just runs sideline to sideline. Um, I thought overall special teams was fine by me. I don't really think there's nothing else to be said about special teams. They kind of
Yeah,
just
I didn't have a problem with special teams either. I mean, um, Cordell Patterson returning kicks, Tariq Cohen returning punts. I thought um, Pinheiro was what he was supposed to be. Um, it was his first year, and yeah, the kid is gonna make mistakes.
hmm
The kid is gonna be nervous. The kid has to kick his way out of certain situations so that when he comes up to that kick again, he'll be able to manage and power through. I think next year he will be better. Given his first year with all the pressure that he came in under, that had nothing to do with him.
yeah.
I think he did well. I think he did really well. I would prefer to see Tariq Cohen more on kickoffs than
Okay.
punts because there's more space for him to deal with. And punts, the space shrinks a little bit quicker. And yeah, you're right. Once he did his end move is, man, I got to get my tail out of bounds.
Mhm.
Whereas if he has the space on kickoffs, he's small enough. Whereas he can find certain holes that, because I mean, Cordero Patterson, for all his skills, he's a pretty big guy, you
Yeah.
know. And I don't understand why Cordell Patterson can be a really good wide receiver, I think, if you get his mind right to play wide receiver and stop trying to have him be this special, this special trick guy, you
hmm
know. Mm. But you were talking about the cap earlier. There's a really wonderful website, and it's called overthecap.com. And I've been looking at it for the past, I think 10 years now.
hmm
And it's a really good website if you want to look and see where a team's cap money is going. So I'd probably say moving forward, if you could, yeah, just go take a look at it because it's really good.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Bears cap numbers right now for next year, and yeah, they got some crazy numbers. Your boy Charles Lindon Jr. is going to hit the cap at 10.3 million next year. Um, Kyle Long is still in the books for 9.6. Now, when that comes off, I'm not necessarily sure.
hmm
Amaka Moore's
I
on the
think
books
I think
next
personally they'll
for
just
nine.
finish out the contract out of respect for him.
Yeah, and that's probably true. But typically, I'm not necessarily sure of the rules of a retired player, whether they
Yeah.
keep your money on the books or they let it go at a particular time during the season.
Hmm.
But currently, right now, he's on the books for 9.6. So, I mean, you got some guys there that I honestly think make a little bit more money
Hmm.
than the production that the Bears have received.
Yeah.
Trey Burke gets over 8. Bobby Massey gets over 8. You know, I think Taylor Gabriel, you mentioned him earlier. He's
Mhm.
around 6 million per too.
Yeah.
So I think the Bears have room to be
Hmm.
able to maybe dump some salary
Yeah.
from a couple of players and see if they can probably try to get younger, quicker, stronger, faster, whether it be through the draft or free agency. I'm not necessarily sure. But
Mhm.
I honestly think the core is still there for us to do some really good things. It is
Yeah.
just got to start with Mike Nagy.
Yeah.
Mike
And
Nagy has got to pull his head out of his derriere and coach these guys up.
mhm.
He's got to,
Uh,
because
next year,
you can't keep blaming the offensive coordinator. And honestly, I don't even know why you have an offensive coordinator when your head coach calls his plays.
yeah,
I don't see the point.
I
Yeah.
think next year, it's going to be a very, and I mean very big year for the Bears.
Yeah.
One, it's already started now. It's going to be a big year for them in the offseason to see one. Are they going to get that competition for quarterback? So if Trubisky starts struggling and it's, to the point where it's almost legit repeats itself, you
And
don't have a Chase.
Trubisky's in his last year next year too.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have a Chase Daniels where you're like, well, Chase Daniels is nothing to
Oh,
Trubisky. You
please.
have
I hope they don't bring him back. He was just literally horrible. I
so
mean, and
yeah.
then what makes it even worse is that they'll win a game when he's playing quarterback, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh hey, yeah, well we're okay because we got Chase Daniels. Man, give me a break. Go get a quarterback. Just even if you get a veteran quarterback, so that a really good veteran quarterback who was once a starter
Yeah.
and let Trubisky learn under this veteran quarterback. I mean, I'm not saying go after Tom Brady or but Teddy Bridgewater, could be a nice little addition. Someone that in the event that Trubisky can learn from, and maybe he can probably take over the reins and beat a good quarterback. That everyone, I mean, we all know, we all want the best thing for Trubisky. We do. I don't
Yeah.
know any Bears fan that's going to sit up here and say, well, you know what? I would much rather go back into the draft and just go with a rookie again at, pick number 43 or pick number 50 and get a quarterback. Trubisky
Mhm.
is not that bad. We just got to get Nagy to make sure that he is utilizing this young man's skills to the best of his ability. And the best of his ability is not what Nagy did last year.
Yeah. So whether they get Andy Dalton or Marcus Mariota, Teddy Bridgewater, I think they can add competition. I also think they could add even more competition if.
I think Dalton would be better than
Mhm.
Mariota. Mariota's not a passer. At least Cincinnati has actually won games with
Yeah.
Andy Dalton, and I think Andy Dalton would be pretty good.
Mhm.
Andy Dalton has proven he can be successful. And I think, yeah, you got to get a veteran quarterback who's actually been in that starting position before that Trubisky can lean on. I don't even know who's the Bears quarterback coach. Do they even have one?
Their quarterback coach right now is Doug Ragone, which
Well,
they kept
he,
him.
he's another one that needs to at least step his game up as well too. He's supposed to be an extension of the offensive coordinator almost.
Hmm.
So I mean, come on, man. Let's get these guys together. And it's the biggest problem with the Bears is their coaching staff. The
Yeah.
roster to me is I don't think there's not too many problems with the roster. Even Kyle Fuller, Kyle again. If he's not on the side, if he's not on the field long, then I think we're good. But the offense revolves around that coaching staff. That coaching staff has got to make sure that our offense is playing 100. And this year, they just did not do it.
Hmm. Then I know one of the things I say, one of the needs in the draft they need to address, obviously, is offensive line. But if they take their first pick at the third pick in the second round and they take a quarterback,
I
I'm
hope it's Tua Tagovailoa.
as if he's somehow drops.
He won't be available. This is just me being,
Uh,
wishful
but
thinking.
I would say I'm down for it. I would say the one quarterback I would take after either Tua and who's the other Joe Burrow.
Okay.
I wish we had the freaking first round pick because I would take him in a heartbeat right now. But
Let's hold on here now. I watch a lot of SEC football, and Joe Burrow only became Joe Burrow this 1 year. So let's not try to jump and sing his praises just yet. I would like to see what this young man does, you know, in a second year. Because I mean, before he came, that his first year with LSU, he was straight garbage. When
yeah,
he was at Ohio State, he was straight garbage. Now all of a sudden, he gets Joe Brady as his offensive coordinator. He's become this great NFL quarterback. So I'm holding out firm that I want to see what he's going to do first. And again, he has to be in the right system. So I
yeah.
don't know if Cincinnati is going to be the right team for him, but
Mhm.
time will tell.
Yeah, but I would say the Bears to draft a quarterback after those two. I would say if he's somehow still there, I would say, if you feel like you just need a backup plan if all else fails, I'd say if he's available, try Justin Herbert because
Herbert, yep.
I thought he
I
was a
agree.
pretty good quarterback, even though there was a few games this year, like for example, I believe there was Arizona State game. I did not see that game, but I know he didn't do the best. There was a few games where he didn't show up, but altogether, the last two games he played, which was the Pac-12 championship game, he literally dominated Utah,
Yeah.
which was the best team in the country.
Well,
And then,
I will say I think the Chargers are going to grab him at what, 6?
mhm,
Uh, I'm pretty sure Miami is going to draft that. I honestly believe Miami and San Diego are drafting quarterbacks.
yeah,
So I
well,
don't I don't know of any other quarterbacks that are going to crack that top three. Burrow, Tagovailoa, and Herbert
mhm,
or Herbert. I don't. I hope I'm not. I hope I'm saying his name correctly, but and Herbert was actually pretty good early in the year.
mhm.
So I can't see those three quarterbacks still being around after the Chargers draft number 6, I believe. Can't see it.
Well, we'll never know. Anything can happen in the draft, but
No one will.
wish
No
I saw
one knew.
I wish I saw the last drive he had when he beat Wisconsin, but I failed to see that drive. But
Yeah.
there's still some decent quarterbacks. Like I know Jacob Eason from Washington. He's there. He was good this season. Jake Fromm, I don't know if I would take Jake Fromm. Um, and it goes to show he didn't really improve like I thought he would. But other than that, I would really fix the offensive line through the draft. Now, depending on what offensive linemen are out there coming out of college,
Correct.
or try to fix it.
Especially a good one that we can get at 43 and 50.
Like,
Um,
yeah, because I think
Not sure.
the last drafted really good drafted O line was the one guy that Colts had or have
Yeah.
right now. So obviously the Ryan Pace, he has a lot of work to do, which I think the three biggest people for this year's or going into next season is Pace, Nagy, and Trubisky. It's really a make it break it deal for those three. I think Pace, he needs to go along in the draft with Nagy and scout the talent well, not go AWOL and just draft on his own accord because of potential.
Yeah.
That almost sounds like literally MLB prospect type of crap.
Yeah. And
Um,
I say I'll put it in a different order. I'll say Nagy, Trubisky, and Pace. Pace last because he's going to be the one that makes the decisions on Nagy and Trubisky. I don't think Pace is not going to fire himself.
well,
So
that's the
um,
McCaskies get
yeah,
right there.
exactly. So, so I think Pace, and let's be honest, Pace didn't do a bad job putting this team together.
Oh
He really
yeah,
didn't put a bad job. He do a bad job putting his team together. He
I
did.
think
He,
it's
he dropped the ball a couple of times.
It's
Um,
really, I think the only thing you can say about Pace is the draft picks, because you can go back to the very first one he did was Kevin White, nowhere to be found.
correct.
He got cut off the Cardinals this year.
That was a bad pick.
Yeah, I
But
think,
every GM has one. Every
yeah,
GM has that one
every,
pick that defines their career, and every GM has that pick that, well, you know what? I wish I had a passed on them. So, Ryan Pace, I think for all intents and purposes, he hasn't done a bad job. Everyone blames him for Trubisky.
well,
Basically
mostly because
that's his one.
it's mostly because what is it? His Trubisky's soul is literally
That's
indentured to what you
that's
know.
his one.
The two future quarterbacks are going to be playing on, I believe, Sunday or Saturday. It's one of those days.
Yeah,
You know,
I think it's oh, the Titans go to Baltimore. So yeah, it's Sunday.
so obviously, you're going to be Bear fans on Twitter. Always saying that. I know they were talking like crazy after Deshaun Watson made that
Well,
insane play. After that, I
well,
just lost it, and I was like, okay, that's no more,
well,
no more.
we can go around the world in a day on
Yeah,
what ifs, what could have been. This is what may have happened if we drafted this guy. We don't
yeah,
know that for sure because, again, these guys just happen to go to the right system that fits
yeah.
their skills and abilities. So, um, but Ryan Pace, again, just like I said before, Mike Nagy's already behind the eight ball because
Yeah,
again, Ryan Pace is gonna, and then he also said Trubisky for one more year. Yeah, because Trubisky is gonna come cheap. You
yeah.
know, they're not gonna re-sign Trubisky unless
He
Mike
has to like
Nagy
break
pull.
up.
He's got 1 year to pull that kid around.
Yeah,
And do I honestly think Ryan Pace will pull the trigger on Mike Nagy? Who knows?
he.
But looking at Mike Nagy this year, he did not. He failed his team this year. He
Oh yeah.
failed his team, and then they scuttlebutted the offensive coaches as it would say, "Hey, it's your fault. It's your fault. I'm calling the plays from your offense."
I think the one thing is at first when the offensive issues were a thing, I gave Nagy a leash. Like, well, maybe he could be 2-3 years, and then maybe you can look into the offseason. But no, after this year, I'm like, okay, Nagy, you need to step your game up.
Yeah,
You're not on the hot seat now, but if things don't progress and the offense is somewhat similar and makes the same offense production where they're literally dead last in almost every
yeah,
category,
yeah.
um, uh, nothing and nothing's really changing, then obviously your hot seat's going to be on the list. And
Oh, his hot seat is hot in my opinion. When you scapegoat the offensive coordinator and you're calling the plays, then I think that hot seat is heating up because there was a couple of times he actually snapped the reporters when
oh
reporters
yeah,
asked him about his play calling and is he going to give it up? And as a matter of fact, it was that game against the Saints when he had Trubisky throw the football 54 times. Now, let me ask you this. You know what kind of quarterback Trubisky is. You've seen every Bears game this season.
yep,
Is is Mitchell Trubisky a quarterback who you drop back to throw 54 times?
nope,
He
nope,
threw the ball more in the first half than almost Teddy Bridgewater did for the entire game. I
yep.
mean,
That's where we
that
also
was
see a kind of
and then on top of that, at the half, believe it or not, at the half it was 12-10. It
yep.
was 12-10. So and at the press conference, Mike Nagy, when he was posed with a
Oh,
question,
the
and I
iconic.
can't remember the question or the reporter, but he said, "What do you want me to do? Run on 2nd and 9?" Yes.
Yeah. And then he also gave another iconic line to that. Is like, I'm gonna run the ball. I'm not stupid. I'm like, okay,
Okay.
that
All right.
you're
Good. Then run the ball. When you ran the ball more than 20 times, you're 8-4. More than 20 times, you're 8-4. One time against the Saints, you ran the ball 7 times. I have never heard of an offense in NFL history in any game running the ball 2 times in one half. Not even Air Coryell did that back in the 80s. Come
yep.
on. And keep
And
it Eric Coyer didn't win any Super Bowls either by being one-dimensional. You don't win by being one-dimensional. Nagy should know that.
yeah,
But
and
I
to
think he's
really,
trying to prove I think he was trying to prove a point to Ryan Pace that this
yeah,
is not my quarterback. And I'm gonna
um,
show
yeah,
it.
but to
Soapbox, I'm getting off of it.
but to end the video off, really, the Bears' 2019 offense had, if not, I think personally, I didn't start competitively becoming a Bears fan, since 2008, which was the last time I went to Chicago. But it was arguably, one, if not maybe the worst Bears offense in the team's history. Um, Obviously, they have some changes that they need to do
Yep.
and changes that they need to make.
Yep.
Um, it's going to be a huge process. I'm going to be watching them very closely on all the moves they make as opposed to free
Me
agency and
too.
even the draft moves. It's going to be a build. Their schedule, it's fairly easy. It's a fairly simple, easy schedule. It's a third place schedule. The really only tough teams I remember seeing on the schedule was the LA Rams, which I don't know why we're playing them again for a third.
Yeah, 3 years in a row we got the LA Rams. Yeah. What
Green.
division? I think don't the division we have is the AFC South?
We play the AFC South and then the NFC South as well. So we play
Okay.
the Saints again, which we get another crack at them at home, but this time we'll
Correct.
probably have Drew Brees instead of Teddy Bridgewater. When they gave us the Texans, I was like, they're literally just the NFL's just mocking us right now after that cheap game. So I'm expecting Deshaun Watson to go off on us that game too. Hopefully the defense can do a better performance than they did against the Chiefs. And then I guess you can add the Titans if they can have that consistent, really good running game with
Well,
Derrick
let me
Henry.
say this real quick, and I'm gonna say it again. If the Titans get more than 35 minutes of time of possession, they are going to beat the Ravens. Book it. 35 minutes time of possession, they will beat the Ravens. You heard here first on Cameron's video. So that's my spiel.
And then another tough team, but I feel like we always typically handle most of the time is the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not really worried about the Vikings. The Packers. See, my thoughts on the Packers is this: they're not. In my opinion, I think they're not a good team. And whatever you're a Packer fan watching this video, I don't think they're that good of a team because in both games the Bears literally took them to the limit. One game, week 1, Bears offense didn't show up. The week 15 game is because of
stupid offense didn't show up, and we gave up one big play. In both games, we gave up one big play, which wound up costing us the game.
Yeah, and then the iconic
Green Bay is not good. Aaron Rodgers is old, and he still thinks he's 25 years old. I'm sorry, the Green Bay Packers are not very good, and I think next year, if we get our butts together and Nagy can call a game and stop getting nervous when you play the Packers. It's a big rivalry game, so a lot of pressure's on you. So you try to do things a little bit more than what you're normally supposed to do. And you do those things against the Packers. Of all teams, the Packers.
Yeah. But other than that, the season's pretty favorable. I can see this team again being a 10-6, maybe 11-5. I'm not gonna say 12-4 yet unless I see some really good growth. But the schedule presented to the Bears for 2020 season, it's a schedule that, they can either be first again like they did in 2018 or second place but make a wild card spot. I think this team currently presented, it may not be, a 1 seed team like the 2018 team could have been if some wins turn around. But I think they're like a third to maybe fourth seed wild card team where they can get one game at Soldier Field and be able to rectify whatever. And again, the turnaround started mostly after that Vikings game ended, and the Bears have a lot of work to do to be able to fix this issue. So we're gonna obviously be watching. I'm gonna be watching and if hopefully things get for the better. But yeah, that's really it of this video, guys. So, other than that, I gotta say thank you to my Uncle Daryl for showing up.
Hey, thank you for having me. And we need to do this again after the draft.
Okay,
After
yeah,
the draft, we'll do it again so
okay,
we can actually give our opinions on the Bears draft picks.
yeah. If
The,
I'm not busy at the
the
time,
very small amount of them that they have.
yeah, I'm still gonna be updating, making sure short little videos for you
Hmm.
guys on free agent moves. I kind of in this video we kind of just covered really the most recent things, which the last recent thing was Kyle Long and the tight end coach. But any more changes as opposed to free agent moves and stuff like that, and other coaching changes if they tend to happen. I'll make sure to make a video updating that stuff for you guys. But yeah, so anyways, if you guys like the video, leave a like in the comment
I'm
section.
liking it.
Hit that subscribe button if you want to get more Chicago Bears content or just more content on my channel in general. I do movie reviews, anime reviews, which I can't wait for my TV show next week or tomorrow actually. And then other content. At first, I thought I was going to do Clippers, but maybe I'll do Clippers after the All Star break. Um,
Yeah,
then
the NBA season really won't kick until after the All-Star break anyway. So
yeah,
it doesn't do any good talking about the NBA right now anyway.
yeah. So and then also leave in the comment section what you think the Bears need to do, and find ways to improve, and what they need to do to get to basically have a successful 2020 season. Hopefully, the Bears will have a successful 2020 season, and because really they want to hear more booze and Soldier Field, that's not going to change for them. This video is like 1 hour, 26-minute long video, so it's going to be a hefty long
Yeah,
time to
yeah.
update.
You told me it was gonna be 20 minutes.
I didn't think you're going depth for all this stuff. Yeah.
But see,
Um,
that's just how much we love the Bears, Mo.
yeah.
That's just how much we love the Bears. Just how much, I mean, now, as your dad will tell you, we've been Bears fans since, way in the mid 70s. And so our family has really, lived with the Chicago Bears in a sense. So yeah, we feel passionate about our team. So yeah, that's probably why the video is so long. It's because one, we love the Bears, and your father raised you to love the Bears as well too, and we brought this out in the video.
Yeah. But anyways, guys, it's been long enough. I know I said I'd do this video like 2 weeks ago, but yeah, I was very busy with a bunch of other stuff. But I'm literally in 2 days about to head back to Connecticut. So obviously, the scenery will change. There's probably gonna be like 2 or 3 more videos in here in California, but then it'll be same old good old dormitory. Probably better light. Stuff like that. But other than that, I'm gonna get out of here. You guys have a great day. This video will probably be uploaded maybe tomorrow, because I have things to do, and the East Coast time is much different than anything else. But I'm gonna get out of here. You guys have a great day, and bear down. Go Bears.
All right, go Bears. Talk to you later.
See ya.